George, you obviously get to be captain tomorrow night. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, proud moment for me. Obviously, an honour to be able to lead the boys out tomorrow. So yeah, for me personally, individually, a really nice moment.
It's a bit of a tradition for players when they reach a landmark cap, but when did you actually find out that you would be captain?
Obviously, a couple of days ago, we had a conversation with Michael in training. So yeah, a nice moment for me personally, and a nice moment for my family.
How do you plan to handle the role? Will there be a big speech, or what will you be like in the role?
I don't think it'll be much different, to be honest. I think, obviously, being an experienced lad now and the way I am and conduct myself, I think I show leadership roles anyway. So, obviously, it just highlights it a little bit more, wearing the armband, but maybe a little bit more responsibility. But as the game and stuff, I won't change much in how I am.
It's a very young squad. We know why it's a young squad. You know, having a landmark cap like this emphasises the experience you bring. What are you saying to some of the younger faces, some of the less experienced players about the challenge ahead?
Just trying to help them as best as I can, really. You know, we've obviously been struck with injuries and things like that. There's no hiding place with that. So we've got a lot of young lads, a lot of fresh youth. So it's about giving them the best platform to go and perform and installing confidence in them to perform at this level. Thank you.
Michael, if I can turn to you, just kind of repeat the question to some degree. With so many players out, what does George Savile's experience mean for the squad?
I think George is one of 4 or 5 players. Josh, Connor Washington, Paddy McNair, even Jamal Lewis and Daniel Ballard, I would think, come into that category. Obviously Bailey's not here. The rest of the squad around that is, there's some other players in there, obviously like Jordan Thompson, who's played, but the rest of the squad is predominantly very, very young or inexperienced at international level. So I don't think that it's fair to give someone the captaincy and then put a whole lot of responsibility in terms of their responsibility for the rest of the squad. So it's a real honour for George. I think the fact that he's amassed these 50 caps in the space of 6 years is testament to his commitment to come and play for Northern Ireland, his availability, his fitness, and the fact that if you probably look at the number of games we've had in that period, that's a real high percentage of appearance, whether that's starting or coming into games. So, I think in that side of things, he's a very worthy recipient of the captaincy, and he'll bring a lot. I laugh at George because he's pretty grumpy and miserable around the place at times, so he's been even more grumpy with the captaincy. So, and because he has high standards and he's got expectations, and that's what you want, to bring through into the young players as well.
I'm hesitant to ask, are there any fresh concerns in the squad at the moment?
Not at the minute, no, but we have to get through tonight. Obviously, we'll train here tonight, but we've only trained twice. We've only trained Tuesday and Wednesday. We didn't train Monday because we just had too many sort of hangovers from the weekend in terms of knocks and hamstrings and muscle concerns. And obviously, we had 3 players who came in that couldn't travel, in Bailey, Paddy Lane and Brad Lyons. So we just had to nurse the squad through. But we've trained well Tuesday and Wednesday, and obviously, tonight's session is an important one as well.
I think we've spoken already during this campaign that you've never quite had a situation like this in terms of the injuries, but this week's felt like another level, sort of losing 5 players since you announced the squad.
Yeah, it's been tricky because obviously we went into the week without a number of players. I think I was just looking through the squads list today of people who have pretty much been part of this campaign or would have been part of this campaign. I think there's 15 players that aren't with us, which means when you've got 22 players, you're down to, basically 37 players that we've used well over 30 players in this campaign in terms of putting them on the pitch. So obviously more than that when we bring it into naming a squad as well. So yeah, look, that's been challenging, but that's the nature of the job. There's not really anything that you can do about that. I think the good thing is where we have gone, when we've called players in, they've been on the first available flight to get here, which is nice. That players are at a time when maybe their club games off on Saturday. They've maybe got a little bit of downtime from their club, and they're making sure that they get here as soon as possible. We called in young Caelan Boyd-Munce from St Mirren. He was on a plane last night after training. So those are all things that I think are testament that whilst we are a young squad, we've a lot of these young players are very, very keen to get their international career up and running.
And just lastly from me, I wanted to ask about Conor Hazard, because he'll obviously, or presumably, come into the side. I'm making that assumption. But he's obviously a player that knows Finland, knows Helsinki, he used to play across the road here. What are you looking for from Conor?
Well, look, he had a really good period here. I was probably a little bit disappointed that, it didn't go again for him, really, with the nature of the loan. And I think a little bit of that was down to how the season finishes here, obviously, the time of the season finishing. And then he came back to Celtic and had to wait a period. But it's probably maybe one of the best periods Conor's had in his career in terms of regular first-team football. I think he'd quite a bit of European experience as well in that campaign. So, he's been very patient. It's difficult when you're a goalkeeper and you come and maybe don't get that many opportunities to play. And sometimes it takes an injury to give you the opportunity to play. I mean, if you look at the past, there's no better example of that than Michael McGovern. So Conor's been very, very patient. And, he has the opportunity, obviously, to build on the clean sheet that he kept in the last game in October. And, as I say, I think he's looking forward to the experience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Mark Sterling from the BBC. Mark, just wait for the microphone, please.
Hi, Michael, if I could start with you. You said there about you had to sort of not train on Monday, just due to the injuries. Is that the first time you've kind of had to do that? Do you have to do that many times down the years?
It's the first time we've done it, to be fair. With the players that had played on Saturday and the sort of with consultation with the medical team, plus Monday was a pretty miserable day in Belfast as well. We had only 7 players to train, really. So we had only 7 players at the weekend who had played 45 minutes or less for their club. So we had to make sure that we just protected the players a little bit, So we do a little bit more work, maybe in the analysis of the video room. You can get information that way. We just had to be a little bit careful because we didn't want, the likes of Daniel and Paddy, didn't train until Wednesday, for example. So those were key players for us. We had to manage ourselves through, and the key players, George also didn't. We had to manage him through from the weekend. So players come off the weekend with different little ailments, so you have to make sure that they're ready to play in the game, and the medical team did a great job on that.
And can I just ask, Michael, just from a personal point of view, obviously as a manager, it rests on you to remain upbeat. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as Ian sort of said there, it seems to have just hit a new level with the injuries this week. Is it difficult to stay upbeat when the injuries keep coming as they have?
Look, I just sort of ignore most of the stuff that Stephen writes, and then I stay upbeat after that, to be fair, yeah. I think it's important, the most important thing is that as a manager, I was asked about it earlier in the interview, is the glass half full or is it half empty? Well, if it was half full, I'm in the wrong, or half empty rather, I'm in the wrong job. Of course I have to look at that. The difficulty we have had in this group is results. I think at times we've had to look at, there's definitely been positives for me as a coach in the performance. I think sometimes the performances are always evaluated on result, which I understand. But what with these younger players, they need positivity. You want young players coming away and playing for their country, looking forward to doing it, not with a, reservation about doing it, an insecurity about doing it, a lack of confidence about doing it. So, probably the biggest challenge we've had in this campaign is that, we've probably had to put too many younger players in together at the one time. But it's up to my jobs to help them and protect them. And the players are great. This is a brilliant group of players to work with. Probably the easiest group of players that I've had in my time as an international manager, because they're just so keen to do well. They're learning on the job. And, so for me, that's what gives me the reason to stay upbeat is the motivation that the players give me because of their application to obviously how we've worked on the training pitch and tried to do the things that we've done and brought those forward into the game.
We spoke to a few of the players earlier on in the week, Michael, just about, in terms of what we're hoping to get out of these 2 games. And a few of them actually were sort of quite strong on maybe playing for their international futures and, wanting to build on making an impression for the future. Do you look at it like that? And maybe from what do you see from these two games is what we need to get out of them?
I think like I think anytime you play 10 international games a year, so you can't neglect any of them. None of them, have any less significance. So we are in a situation where obviously we've not won a lot of games in this campaign and in the previous campaign as well. So the most important thing is that when we get the opportunity to play is that we try and reverse that. We try and get into a consistency of results to go the other way and start to put more wins together, more draws together. And that's why every game is significant. You can't just say, well, these two don't have any significance because obviously we can't qualify. Finland are in a similar situation. I'm not sure if they have the route of a playoff or not, potentially. But the basis of any international is to get the maximum out of it, because we'll end this campaign. We won't play again till March. The international landscape can look a little bit different for a lot of players. Their club situation could look a lot different as well. So I think they have to value, and that was a message that I sort of hammered home to them on Monday when they arrived, that they have to value every experience they have, because you never know when it is taken away from you.
And this next one, Michael, maybe has to come with a warning. Obviously, Patrick Nelson's letter on the Casement issue was published yesterday. Can I ask you, do you agree with Patrick that in terms of Windsor, the option just isn't there to do anything for it?
Well, I manage the team, not the stadium, first of all. And my opinion hasn't changed from when you asked me this question 2 or 3 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago before that either. So, I mean, that's a response to, obviously, concerns that the supporters have made at that point in time. That's a matter for the association. I've spoken about the situation on many occasions. So, as I say, you've had my opinion on that in the past.
And do you think from a fan's point of view, is it now at the stage now where they now just have to get on board with it?
Well, look, I've already answered that before in the past. I said, look, if we're going to be part of the bid for 2028, we know how the bid was submitted. So I think that's the choice that we have, and it's about trying to make sure that when 2028 arrives that we're in good shape. My job is to make sure the team's ready for 2028, not the stadium.
Thanks, Megan. And I appreciate we're there from a match, so apologies having to ask those questions. George, on a more positive note, can I ask sort of when you found out the news and how you reacted? Who did you phone? Who did you tell? How did you take the news?
Yeah. Rang my dad straight away, to be fair. It was a nice moment in the week. Michael just pulled me and explained, obviously, the situation. So, as I just said, it comes with great honour and pride from me personally, yeah.
When you reach a milestone of 50 caps, and obviously you've got the captaincy, do you sort of look back? Do you get a wee bit of time to look back? Do you remember the debut? Do you remember sort of high moments throughout those 50 caps?
Yeah, obviously, when you're involved and during it, you just sort of ride the wave. You don't really have time to think and look back, but obviously now when you hit a landmark, it's kind of, I've had a look back and reflected, and yeah, it's a whirlwind really. It's happened quite fast, and then within 6 years, a few campaigns later, we're here.
And you've played with a couple of boys who've gone on to go past 100. Now you've got 50. Do those sort of things come into your mind?
I think that could be a stretch. Yeah, obviously, I think that could be a stretch, but you never say never, no. But you don't. For me as a player, I don't look at that. I just kind of stay in the now. And for me, tomorrow night is my 50th. It's brilliant, and hopefully we can have a good evening.
Cheers. Good luck tomorrow night, boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Stephen.
George, congratulations, first of all. 50 is a great achievement. I think there's only like 40-odd players from Northern Ireland have achieved that. We're lucky that in Davo and Johnny, they're very honest whenever they're sitting there, and I'm sure you'll be the same. What is your assessment of this campaign?
I can't sit here and say it's been successful. It's been different. It's been difficult. We've had tough moments, but I feel like we're building for the future. I feel like we're in a transitional period. We've got a lot of young lads. We're not looking at excuses, but we have been riddled with injuries and things like that. So it's been difficult, but there are positives we can take out of it. And as I said, we want to build for the future. I know we want results now, but it just hasn't got that way. So yeah, positives to take, and hopefully we can build on it.
How do you look upon your Northern Ireland journey? You came in just on the back of like the glory of Euro 2016, and there has been difficult moments since. I'd be interested to know how you see the last 6 years.
Yeah, I came in just after 2016, so I came in probably in a good moment. We were in a good moment, and I kind of felt like I righted the wave. I hit the ground running, I feel, and we had opportunities to make the finals, and we just missed out, which hurt and probably still hurt to this day. We missed out at Switzerland away by a goal. We missed out at Slovakia in the playoff final there to go to the Euros. So big opportunities missed, and then the last couple of years have been difficult. As a nation, as a team, and individually, it's been difficult. Obviously, you want to play in a winning team. You play better when it's tough. It's hard to play well. But for me, I'm stuck with it. There is a lot of scar tissue. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't. But I'm here to get success, and I'll stick with it and work hard. I like facing difficult situations. I've always been one to front it. So yeah, I feel like with the squad we've got now, there's a lot of potential, and hopefully I can hang around for a bit longer and bring some success.
When you say scar tissue, are you talking about individually, yourself, or the team as a whole?
Well, obviously the last success was 2016. So and we've had big opportunities, and we've been one game away from the World Cup and one game away from the Euro. So we've had opportunities there, and we've been very close. We just haven't managed to get over the line. The last 2 or 3 years have been very difficult. We haven't picked up many wins. That's we're not going to hide from that. So yeah, collectively and individually, it has been difficult in terms of results. But I remain optimistic, and I really feel like there is a lot of youth coming through that will have success.
And by success, qualification?
Yeah.
Last one to yourself, George. 50 caps. Is tomorrow going to be the night when you score that first goal? You obviously scored a belter at club level recently, so the Green and White Army are hoping you do the same tomorrow night.
Yeah, if I can follow up what I did on the weekend, then we'll be all here sitting smiling.
What would it mean to you? Because there's been so many close shaves. Like, I think I've watched you several times at Windsor, and some of the shots just go straight at the keeper. If they go 5 yards either side, you're a hero in front of the cop.
Yeah, it's been difficult, obviously. I obviously want to get that goal. There's no secret behind that. So, I've had moments where I think we've had conversations where it's kind of like, what's going on? But, as I said, I'll remain optimistic. I will get there.
Good man. Good luck at the captaincy tomorrow night. Michael, just to go back on something Sterling said, does Casement Park become a big distraction for you because you're constantly asked about it, and does it annoy you?
Does it annoy me, as opposed to the person who's asking that, or the actual subject? No,
just the question.
Just the question. No, I look. It's difficult when people ask you something and you have to continually repeat the same answer. There's no change in the circumstances for me. So every time there's an opinion or there's something written about this, my opinion won't change. It's the same, and I've given it. So I feel like I've given you it. It isn't, whatever happens, whether there's opinion from someone else or external opinion, I understand that it generates news, but that's all it is. The situation is what it is, and I've given my opinion on it. So I kind of think I can't really say any more about it, and I don't see any value in continually repeating the answer that I've given over and over again.
And your opinion has always been this is a great opportunity for Northern Ireland as a country and a football nation.
This is a sporting event, and to be part of a sporting event as a home nation is a very special thing, and the opportunity to host a major tournament in our own country is something that I think we should embrace, as opposed to have it, as a point of argument and conflict, as it seems to be at this minute in time.
Okay. In terms of tomorrow night, I actually think it's quite an important match along with the Denmark one. I know people will say, it's a dead rubber and all that, but you don't want to go through a campaign. I know your pride, for starters, and the players' pride as well, without getting points on the board against San Marino. I'm sure you would concur with that.
Totally, I think we would certainly be disappointed if that was the outcome, and we'd have to obviously seriously look at ourselves, myself as a coach, the players as a group of players as well. I think that there's a pride in playing for your national team regardless of what's at stake, and that's something that we have to protect as well. So the most important thing is that the level of performance is there, and as you say, that we can put points on the board. I think, look, there's been certain games in this campaign where I think we've been a little bit unlucky not to take points in games, but we haven't taken them, so we have to move on to these 2 games. It gives us our last two opportunities to do it in this campaign. We came in, we were a pot 5 team. We were drawn as a pot 5 team. When I came in, I did try to make the players feel that they weren't a pot 5 team, because I genuinely don't believe that over the course of the last 3 to 4 campaigns. So, but unfortunately, at this minute in time, our results would indicate that we are. So we have to try and improve from that point, and that's a significant thing that we have to start, and you have to find improvement somewhere in results. So the next game, when you're in that sort of situation as a group of players and a coaching staff and a management and as a country, the next game is always the most important one, regardless of when you're in difficult times results-wise, whether that's at your club or obviously even more significantly for your country.
And can I ask your opinion on Davo's interview yesterday over in Scotland? Obviously, he admitted that things haven't been going as well as he had hoped, and he's thinking about his family and all of this. What were your thoughts on that?
Look, I'm speaking to Stephen probably, if not every couple of weeks. It's very, very regular throughout the time of his injury. I knew obviously that he when he'd had setbacks with his knee and how he felt about that, and how his family situation has changed from where he was when he had the injury. So there's a lot of moving parts in the situation for Stephen, which I don't think has probably made decisions for him. It hasn't made making decisions very easy for him in certain situations. But the last time we spoke was just before I named the squad, and he seemed focused on trying to just get his knee in the best shape that he can possibly get it in. And then obviously he will have a decision to make in terms of what his playing options are. I just hope that some of these lads who have been great players, and had really good international careers, we saw, Kyle was in the hotel last night. He's had a knee operation and he's in a brace, and it was quite sad to see him there in crutches, because you want your international career to end with some sort of high. It's nice to go out with some sort of something to remember, and certainly, Stephen Davis certainly deserves that. Any player that's gone over 100 caps deserves that opportunity to be on the pitch for whatever, if it's one last time or whatever it may be. So hopefully, Stephen can get himself to a point where, he has the opportunity to do that, because I think it's really sad that, such a great career is ended with, an injury that has happened on the training ground. And so I know that he's very focused to try and make sure that that's not the case.
Thanks. Well said, by the way.
Thanks, Stephen. We have a question in the corner. Thank you.
Hi, Ari Virtanen from Helsingin Sanomat newspaper. Finland has had recently some bad results, and they are trying to correct some issues in their game and get a good result before the playoffs in March. What kind of a game do you expect?
Yeah, okay. Well, we know that we faced Finland over a number of years now, and there's a lot of similarities. A lot of the players you get familiar. It's not like they have. The team is very consistent, I think, in terms of personnel. There's obviously been some changes in that period, but when I've watched their games, I think at times the result hasn't always been a fair reflection of the game. I thought the 3-0 defeat in Slovenia was not a true reflection on the game. I thought Finland had chances in the game, and the game was probably, the scoreline was harsh on Finland in that situation. I think it shows you the nature of how fragile a qualification campaign can be, where you know, you win 4 of the first 5 games, and then, you know, obviously the results have had a downturn since then. I look at the game that we had with in Belfast. There was very little in the game. You know, you managed to score one of the 2 chances you had. We didn't take the chances that we had, and obviously you lose the game 1-0. So I think we see a tight game. We're maybe not as strong in terms of obviously some of the experienced players that we have not available to us, but hopefully we'll see an energy and a freshness in our team that will give you some problems tomorrow night.
Thank you. Michael.
Keep it brief, guys. Michael, does the fact that, in terms of qualification from Group H, tomorrow's game doesn't have an impact at the top of the table, does that give you a freer hand to maybe introduce some of the younger players as potential second-half substitutes, or will it depend on the state of the game? And just your thoughts on giving the younger fellas, or is being part of the squad and to build up their sort of introduction to the senior side?
Well, I think we have you know, we've 25 players with us actually. I think Shea suspended for this game, and I think there was as many as 11 or 12 players who are 21 and under. So it's a very, very young squad. So I won't be giving them anything. The fact is they'll be needed to play, whether that's from the start or whether that's off the bench. But no, I don't really like just putting young players on the pitch for the sake of doing it. You know, I'm always wary about doing that, because sometimes it creates a false sense of expectation, which I don't think is good for a young player. But I also think that it's important when you do put young players on the pitch that you give them trust and belief to go and play. You know, from my own situation, Billy Bingham put me on the pitch when I was 18 years of age in a team that had just, you know, come out of the World Cup in 1986. So there was a lot of senior experienced players around to look after me. We probably don't have as many experienced senior players to look after some of these young players as well. But I think, you know, anyone who goes on the pitch tomorrow night has something to gain, but they obviously have to earn it. And the players that we have here, they're here because they're at a certain point in their club where they're justifying selection. They're also, when they've come in, I think they've performed well in the camps that we've had and managed to stay in. So we've had the opportunity to drop some of them down to the 21s. We haven't done that. That's not helped Tommy, obviously, in his situation. But I genuinely don't. I'm not ignoring players to just include young players, because I'm based on the difficulties we've had with the unavailability of players. The younger players that we've brought in are the players that deserve their place in the squad.
Thank you, and good luck tomorrow, Michael. And finally, George, one of the images that has stuck with me after I've forgotten many of the matches of the last sort of 6 or 7 years was Basel and your first start in the second leg of the playoff. And I vividly remember seeing you after the game when we'd come so close to taking it to extra time. I assume with your father standing in the terracing, you were in floods of tears. Can you remember that moment and just the emotion of it, and what a night that was for you, because you had a cracking match?
Yeah, coming into a game with that magnitude, obviously, was a big step up for me. And on a personal level, you know, I performed well, but I think the emotion, the magnitude of the game, it was obviously difficult to take, especially when you play the 90 minutes. You feel like you could have got something out of there, and when you're so close to something and you want something that much, yeah, it's tough to take.
Well, listen, congratulations and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.